Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of House of Hoosier podcast. AJ Guyton and Joby Wright ready to go on part 2 of their conversation. They'll pick up with more of Joby's great stories from his coaching career with Bob Knight at Indiana. Plus, they'll touch on the 2022 Hoosiers and what Joby has thought of the way they have performed so far this season. Tons more to get to. Let's go ahead and send it to part 2 with Joby Wright.
You're partly responsible for creating the Indiana basketball player. I remember I used to be in the program, like an Indiana player is a picture of my Allen Henderson Duncan, and it was a definition of what an Indiana player was. So you're partly responsible for creating that, and it was successful for a long time. So being in the room and being in the coach's huddle with Coach Knight, and when you're starting to talk about a player, what were the things you were looking for, and what were the non-negotiables in recruiting a player before you bring them? Because people don't know what that's like when you bring a player to a coach and you like, I got this guy, man, I think he can be a fit. And he's sitting there like, man, whatever, I don't want him, or bring me somebody who can do this. What were the non-negotiables to be an Indiana player?
Well, the first thing, Coach focused on, what he wanted to focus on was what kind of person, in terms of, was this a young man who had core values? So that meant that core values could be instilled. A kid could not have a father, still have values.
Yeah.
So he wanted kids who have good, strong core values and kids who understood the importance of an education. Obviously, a kid knew, because of Coach Knight's reputation, that the expectations of were going to be placed on a young man, that he would have to have understanding of accountability, integrity. That's the core values, work ethic. But Coach also put a high emphasis on the kid being able to shoot the ball. If a kid could score the ball, if a kid had the personality to understand the importance, of a team, and so when we went out to look at players, before we even went to see a player, we did extensive research on the kid, on his background, in terms of influencers. We talked to people at the school, so we went through a process of trying to identify, kids who would have those kinds of things that, would make that seamless transition to our program. I mean, there was no surprise in terms of it was going to be demands placed on you. And that there was going to be Coach put a high premium on the ability to communicate with parents,
right?
Because parents had to understand where he was coming from,
right?
What he was trying to do,
right?
And that was really important, and 90%. 95% of the parents understood that completely. Some parents, at the end of the day couldn't, but the majority of parents, they understood that Coach Knight was going to be demanding, that he was going to place high expectations, on their son. And at the same time, they understood that, Coach Knight was going to give their son his absolute best, which included not just the opportunity to play, to play on a potential championship team, but it was going to be able to graduate, because that was just as important, that a young man understood that coming to Indiana wasn't just going to be about him developing his basketball abilities and skills, but also that he was going to be developed holistically.
Right.
That he was going to be challenged. And because this world is challenging, and after having the opportunity to play at Indiana, you are going to be prepared for the real world. It wasn't that, coach took a piece of paper and a pen, okay, Joby, I'm looking for these 10 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right, yeah.
But having had the opportunity, AJ, to play for him, so I knew, I knew instinctively, what kind of player it would take to fit into the program. And we got to a point where when I got to the position where coach really leaned on me with recruiting, I had to be the eyes, the final set of eyes to lay on a kid to see if a kid could play, but not only the eyes, but the ears.
Right.
And talk to a young man, and I would just be, tell him straight the real talk. Now here's what you can expect. If you come to Indiana,
right,
you're going to be expected to do these things, and you're going to be expected, to carry yourself a certain manner. You're going to be expected to represent, not only yourself and your family, but you're going to represent our team, our program, and this university. And so, by having been, a former player, I understood. I knew, I knew what to look for. And then we expanded things. Was kind of crazy. In the 80s, I went to Bogota, Colombia to get Magnus Palkowski. And I ended up, man, that was at the height. That was at the height of the Colombian mess,
Wow.
And I went down there for a month. I went down there 2 weeks to see him. And then I laid out and said, listen, you need to work on this, son. And then I went back down there for 2 weeks. But that's another story I got to tell you when I see you face to face.
Right, yeah.
And that got me thinking too, AJ. That's why I want to write a book. If I
have to, that's a must.
When I start talking about certain aspects of whatever you ask me about the program or coach, I could talk for hours or for days on that particular question. But at the end of the day, when it came to what we were looking for, by having had the opportunity to play for coach and play on his first team, and then the relationship we had built up prior to me playing for him, I was totally understood what it was he was trying to do. And then when I met Quinn Buckner and Scott May and Bobby Wilkerson and saw the kind of players those guys were, it was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going.
Right.
And then the other thing too, in coaches camp, there was, and I don't think there has never been a camp that was so focused on the teaching of how to play the game the right way. And at that time, when I worked in Coach Knight's camp for 12 years, it kind of, that when they say 9 years, 10 years, I was around. And so coach, you only could be a head coach. There wasn't no assistant coaches. I'm talking about to work in the camp.
Right, got you. Yeah.
So that allowed us to expand our recruiting base. We had some top coaches from Illinois, high schools, and top coaches from Ohio, Indiana, obviously, and a few coaches with Wisconsin. But whatever coaches that were given the opportunity to work in Coach Knight's camp had to be a coach. But then we would teach them our how we wanted them to teach the kids. Don't teach the kids. You might have your own rebounding drill, your own drill,
right.
but you're going to teach shooting this way.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that helped when you talked about recruiting an Indiana player.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all of these coaches who participated in our summer camp who were exposed to the Indiana system, if you will.
Right.
And those guys, what they would look forward to during the summer camps was the one night that coach night, we would have an opportunity. We would call it, we had all kind of names. We call it, we would set aside one night of camp. Where all the coaches would come in and they could talk to Coach Knight. And they could ask him any basketball-related question. So that helped establish what an Indiana basketball player was.
Right.
So, we had all these people go out from our camp with the understanding of what it would be, what it took to play at Indiana.
Right.
So that's, I think that would help you understand.
No, I understand.
Right. So we were able to have people, and they would be on the lookout for us. So hey, there's a kid that's in our state, and he's on
Indiana guy.
Right, he's the Indiana guy. He can fit the program. Right. I know his family. I know his coach. So that was big. That was big because So that's AJ. That's how we came to. Now, the funny thing about what's an Indiana player, if you go back and research it, you can easily research this. And there was a period of time where people were on coaches' case about junior college players. And so coach was documented back before the recruitment of Keith Smart and Dean Garrett and Andre Harris and Todd Jadlow and Courtney Whitty. Coach had junior college. I would never recruit junior college, never. And then he gave his reasons. And then you can, like I said, you do your research, it's there. So right after when Coach coached the 81, was it World Championship? He down in Puerto Rico, and all of that went down there. Well, our competitors, oh boy, they had a field day with that. Oh yeah, Coach, he hit a policeman, he did this, he did that, and blah, blah, blah. They arrested him. So we were getting smashed by our competitors. And people were saying all kind of stuff about why Coach got arrested in Puerto Rico, and so, man, it was hard. It was hard. You asked me what was non-negotiable. Well, we ain't gonna pay nobody no money.
Right, exactly. No, for sure.
You ain't gonna get no cars and houses.
Right, yeah.
I'll go back and tell you why I said that. And then so, that was a non-negotiable. We ain't gonna play that game. We ain't gonna wallow in the mud. We ain't got no tricks. It ain't no tricks. It ain't nothing slick.
Right.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
That's amazing, man. Your explanation is complete. And I asked that because just last night after the game, I know the Hoosiers fan base gets frustrated when they lose and they think since Mike Woodson is here, then that's an automatic Big Ten title and a national championship. But I was thinking, man, it took a while to create the Indiana way. And so Coach Woodson has to create his own way, but it's going to take time. And people think we're in the microwave society where everybody thinks it's supposed to happen because they hire him. And if it ain't happened this year, then it was a failure. So I'm like, but there has to be an establishment of who they want in the program, how they want the program represented. And I'm sure it's going to be pieces of what, you established, what Coach Knight established. And it's going to be some of the modern things that Coach Woody has taken from the NBA. And so I wanted people to hear like, hey, this is what we look for when we were recruiting an Indiana basketball player. That's what separated Indiana from everybody and made them one of the top 2 programs in the country. So you really cleared that up. And I jumped on Twitter. I just like messing with the people just to get them riled up and, hey, relax, man. Like they lost a road game at Iowa, man. It's hard to play there, new team, new everything, relax. We're still rebuilding the Indiana way. We got the right guy. We got the right staff. It's going to take some losses in order to learn some lessons. So I want to dive into that, but I want to also dive back into, I want you to dig deep. I know I'm stretching your memory out right now. I'm getting you ready for that book. That's what I'm trying to do. I hope you over there jotting down a couple things, that I'm saying, that you need to talk about in this book. But can you off top think of your first recruit? Then I want you to kind of talk about, some of the guys that you recruited during your time that had a significant impact on Indiana basketball.
Daryl Thomas was
your first one?
Yeah, Daryl Thomas.
Wow. So that would have been 85, 84, 83?
Yeah, what a great guy. He was.
Rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace. I mean, it broke my heart.
Right.
Because he was we call him D-Train.
D-Train.
Yeah, and to watch him grow and develop and man. Yeah.
I had met him for the first time a year before, to the day that he passed. And he recognized me. I didn't know him. I knew of him, but we all a little bit heavier. We all a little bit chunkier. So I didn't really know him. He was at the Bull Sox Academy. And I was like, I don't know what I was doing up there, like a practice or something with my semi-pro team. And he just, AJ Guyton? I'm looking at this big dude. I'm like, what's up, man?
Yeah.
D-Train, man. Daryl Thomas.
Yeah.
And I just remembered, I was like, 87, the pass.
Yeah.
Oh, like, what's up? And it was my brother. Like, he knew me, he knew of me. And you wouldn't think guys that had that kind of success, would always, and I'm learning that about all you guys. You guys are just like brothers and family, man. And he just was so fun and bubbly, and it broke my heart that following year when I heard that. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time, because they're offering a $250 match bonus for our first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one play to turn your money into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With football season kicking off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah. But I just went to. A lot of people don't know how close we were to getting Ben Wilson.
I remember Ben. Ben is the phenom out of Chicago that ended up
got killed 2 weeks before he got murdered. He visited IU.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And his high school coach, Coach Knight, was his favorite coach. Mm-hmm. And Coach Bob Hambrick, who also coached Nick Anderson, all those great guys. And I think the last one was Derrick Rose.
Right.
But, oh man, it a lot of guys.
Wow.
Let me see, from Daryl to the last team that I was involved with recruiting, or the last group that I was involved with recruiting, was Greg Graham, Pat Graham, Calvin Chaney, Funderburk, Chris Lawson. Did I say Chris Reynolds? Yeah.
Chris Reynolds.
Yeah. And then with the 87 team, Dean, Keith, Ricky Galloway, Steve Isle. You remember, Steve
I know
Isle. Steve
Isle is. I see him all the time. Yeah.
Steve was not a great shooter, but he was a tremendous athlete.
Right.
Wow, man.
That's amazing, man. Just the names you name right there, like that's. Bananas.
Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones. Jay Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! If Jay could have played at Indiana another year or two,
Right, all them been curtains.
Jay was unbelievable as a shooter. I mean, we won. I can remember three or four games at the buzzer. I mean, it's Michigan at half court, he hit a three. Against Purdue, he shot a falling from behind the backboard and knocked it by. But his basketball intelligence, Eric Anderson. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Another tremendous player.
Man, you said it's too many of them to even name, man. So I'm gonna ask you this: Who ended up? What was a player that you thought you had but didn't get? That they're one of the most significant player you thought you had. You just kind of mentioned Ben Wilson. Anybody outside of Ben Wilson? Anybody else that you was like, Coach, I think we got this one. It's gonna be one, and then he changed and flipped and went somewhere else.
Well, it wasn't that much confidence, but it was close.
Close.
That was Sean Kemp.
John Kemp.
I saw Sean play every game his sophomore year in school, and I begged his high school coach, please don't let him go to Los Angeles or Las Vegas, because if he go to one of them places, I know what's going to happen.
Right, you already know.
I already know what's going to happen if he go to Las Vegas or LA. So can you keep him near the crib? And that was the year we went on that trip around the world.
Oh, was okay.
Able to stay connected like I could have if I was on in stateside. And
wow.
So that was the one that and then
imagine the Rain Man doing windmills in Assembly Hall. Lord have mercy.
Alan Henderson.
Yeah,
and I tried to recruit Glenn Robinson, but Glenn, because of my relationship with his high school coach, Coach Heflin, Ron, and God bless his soul. And but Sean, the question, Sean Kemp was the one that I thought we could get. I thought we were close to having that.
Getting that pen.
but that didn't happen. But
well, what about someone that you didn't think you were in as close in on, but then you end up getting? Ricky Calloway. Right.
Because Ricky was a first team high school All-American. Delray Brooks was a first team. I forgot to mention Delray. I recruited Delray. And Delray was the Mr. He was the Mr. USA basketball. He was no one player in the nation when he came in there. You jogged my memory on that one. But anybody who came to IU after 1982, after Jimmy left, 82, I had something to do with.
Yeah, something to do with all since 1982, all the way up to he left in 1990.
Yeah, everybody I had, and coach said, okay, you. Interesting story about recruiting. Calvert Chaney. Now, Ron Felling was the first guy that brought Calvert to our attention. And so, Ron knew his high school coach. So it was something about it. But anyhow, so he telling coach, I'm listening to him telling coach about Calvert. Calvert was a great track participant. I think he might have, if he won the state champ, he was the regional champ, but he could fly on them hurdles, low hurdles and high hurdles, And so there used to be a camp called B like in big, C like in Charles, BC camp.
Okay.
In Valparaiso.
Is that the ABCD camp?
No. It's
Okay,
different.
so
They're different.
Okay,
Bolton and Crow now.
got you.
This is long time ago.
All right.
So anyhow, their camp used to be their main camp. They built their reputation off the camp they had in the South. They would have a camp in Macon, Georgia, someplace, but then they expanded their camp and had one in Valparaiso. So anyhow, when Coach Knight went to see Calvert couldn't throw a beach ball in the ocean. I think Calvert took 50 shots and didn't make 2. You know what I mean? Coach Knight wasn't too happy about that. You know,
that's one of the moments we talked about. Like, oh shoot!
What did you do? Well, you had me go blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Then Coach went and saw Calvert again. Same thing. Couldn't throw a beach ball in the ocean. And hey, Coach won. He didn't want to hear it. That's funny. That's funny.
Right.
Guys, now, well, no. That's the truth, Calvert.
Right. Yeah.
So, Calvert played at the BC camp in Valparaiso. So Coach said, hey, Joe, go up there and sing. I said, okay. So I went up there. First time, I think Calvert got 40. And then the next night, we got 45 or something like that. I'm like, God, that boy, that young man, hey, I said, Coach, we better sign this young man.
Right, yeah.
He can play. Yeah. And then Coach came up. And Coach said, okay, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It took a couple different times for him to get the feel of what.
Take
patience sometimes, man.
yeah. But then that's it. You know, the development part. And then here's another thing too, AJ. You know what was really a tremendous part of the experience of being a coach at Indiana was some of the coaches who would come by. To either observe practice or just, they were friends of Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, I remember meeting the legendary Claire B.
Claire B.
Claire B was someone who was very influential in the development of the motion offense.
Oh, really? Tell me that story.
He had a tremendous impact on Pete Carroll, but on Coach Knight. Pete Carroll came, and Claire B came to practice one day. He couldn't, and this is when he was going blind. Mm-hmm. And this is when Uwe was at IU, and Uwe didn't have a really good practice this day that I'm remembering. Mm-hmm. And Coach is just, he's all in. Uwe, Uwe can't catch the ball. Mm-hmm. And Coach B said, Bobby, don't you run that big boy off from here. He said, because with big boys, it takes them time to develop.
Yep.
And sure enough, not only did Uwe become a first round pick for the Dallas Mavericks, he was also, Uwe graduated Phi Beta Kappa, computer sciences from IU. And then on top of that, Texas Instruments gave him a contract for him to work with them, so the hard work then, you would have people come in, CM Newton, you would have, oh my goodness, you would have
Elaine Lucas, probably.
Oh my God, Henry Abba. I mean, I could just, oh my God. Pete Newell was, people now with Larry Brown. Larry Brown's considered the guy, basketball guru, living basketball. Well, Pete Newell was that and some, because of the relationship and the impact and somewhat the influence he had on Coach Knight, as a coach, because, after a game, when we used to lose a game in Indiana, AJ, we would watch that game all night.
Right. I can imagine.
AJ, I ain't kidding.
Don't stop rewinding.
I ain't kidding. I mean, we would watch it.
And then y'all had to come watch it with us.
Yeah. But having the opportunity just to meet some of those
Absolutely.
great people. I mean, I could go on and on and on about
Definitely.
that. And then when we had the Olympics, when we put that together, just to be in a room with all of the legendary coaches of the time of that generation, of that era together. And we would go to this little joint called Smitty's, a little joint over on, what was that, College? Or I always mixed up. It was a little joint on the corner, and then you got all the Dean Smith, John, you name it, they were there in this little back room, and that's how we picked the 84 team. And to hear the comments and just to be in that environment, to be in that atmosphere was a blessing.
Yeah.
It was an absolute blessing. I mean, it's just like they say when you sit at the table of a king. I mean, it's just the knowledge. I mean, the knowledge and the wisdom, the experience and the expertise, and guys so willing to share. Was just phenomenal, and to have an opportunity to say that, okay, I'm sitting here with all these cats, and then we pick a team, ends up being one of the greatest, the last of college players, and then. One of my favorite memories of that whole deal was one day, I had to stay, Tim Garl and myself, we had to stay with the players who were trying to make the 84 Olympic team and at the Union. And so Tim was there in case somebody got sick, and what he couldn't do, he could get him a doctor. And I was there in case, some come up.
Right. Yeah.
I'm there, I call the cops. I mean, that's just what a part of our responsibility towards the process.
Right.
And I remember one day going back to my room to do something, and I get off the elevator, I hear somebody crying. I said, oh my goodness, who is crying like that? Who crying like that? So I went and looked. It was Carl Malone.
Really?
I went, man, so I'm grabbing, man, he about to break me down. The big old head. He said, hey, brother, you gonna be all right, man. Don't worry about it. You gonna be okay, baby. Hey, man, you gave it your best.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Okay, then I was there when John Stockton got cut.
Oh, wow.
CM Newton, myself and John Stockton. So I'm sitting there, and Coach dropped the news on him. CM Newton hugged him. Then Coach and CM Newton walk out the room, and then John went to work. I mean, he was pissed off.
Right. Was he really?
Nobody. He was mad. He said, Joby, I'm gonna show him. I'll never forget this, man. I'm gonna show him. I should have made that team. I said, hey, man. And then he was mad. And so he did a lot of stuff. But he said, that's all right. I said, John, you got cool, man. He said, Joe, I'm going to graduate, but I'm going to show him.
Right.
And then 2 years later, then I remember there was another player that I had gotten real close to. I ain't going to call his name, but he ended up playing with the Pacers, but he was in the crowd, obviously. And I remember I was at the Indianapolis airport getting ready to go on a recruiting trip, and the Pacers were coming by, and I spoke to him. He acted like he didn't know me. I said, "Oh, that's how it is when you get to be a pro. You forget people." I said, "All right." So fast forward, I'm walking through the airport, so I see a team in the distance. And I said, "Oh, that's the Pacers." I said, "Nah, I ain't gonna let nobody play me like that again." So there's a little restaurant there, so I dove in the restaurant, and so I let them walk past before I go to my gate. Then I hear somebody holler, Coach Wright, you in it? Coach Wright. I'm like, who is that? So I peep around the corner, It's John Stockton and Karl Malone.
Oh, really?
So I was like, okay. So I'm walking up on them cautiously optimistic.
Right, yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I said, these guys going to play me or what? So I walk up. So I go out and I say, so we looking at each other face to face. I said, you know what? Last time I seen you two cats, y'all weren't too happy.
Yeah.
So they start laughing, you know.
Yeah.
So this was after their second year in the NBA. Doing this, and they were getting this one, they were balling out. Their first year, they kind of showed it, but the second year was really when they started rolling. I said, man, you guys are playing some ball. I said, man, you guys are going to have some great careers. And I said, and when I'm talking to them, I could tell that they were really listening.
Right.
We had, and that made me feel so good, man. That those cats was like that, you know. And so when you ask me about, that's why I said I could talk hours and hours and hours, because that is something that. And then I remember going to Salt Lake when I was the Globetrotters. I was coach of the Harlem Globetrotters. I was coach of their serious team, meaning that we played serious opponents.
Okay.
Michigan State won the national championship in 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
We played them.
No, okay.
We played Purdue. We played the national champs of Division I, Division II, Division III, and then we played the college all-stars. We won all those games except Michigan State while I was coaching. And Richardson was playing for them because he grabbed the rim and dunked the ball, and they didn't call it. So they stole it. And I'll tell them, I got to put a film. But that's what I mean when I say having the opportunity to
definitely
to have that experience or to have that being part of the experience of meeting great coaches and great players and guys, you know, off of that collection of guys that tried to make that 84 team, I think there's about 20, 25 Hall of Famers.
Right.
Some of the greatest players in the history was trying to make that 84. If you look at that 75 anniversary, obviously the old guys, but you look at, they came through Bloomington.
That's crazy. What one name you didn't mention? What was your recollection of the great Michael Jordan back then?
When we would run drills, he would do things the North Carolina way. But I said, no, we don't. You gotta do it this way. And the way he would pick up things, because when he was on the floor, he was all business. But when off the floor, he was, you know, he was the kind of guy that would be biting on them guys' ass, you know, he was biting on their rear end.
You all right. We can curse on you. Yeah.
But it was that, and then Coach Knight would say, he's going to be the best basketball player. I mean, Coach Knight knew it like that. And I knew he looked like a good player, but I didn't see it that
right.
It was good. I knew it was good, but I didn't, you know.
Right.
Coach Knight said that, and it was because I think some of the reasons was, I don't know exactly, because Coach Knight had it in his mind, was when he would make the adjustment, when he would do something the North Carolina way, it was, no, you got to do it the Indiana way. And he would do it.
Right, yeah.
And then the way he accepted coaching by coached him hard, like he coached everybody else. And to see him respond like everybody else. I mean, you know, he didn't like, hey man, you know, like, oh, you ain't gonna talk to me. No, whatever coach asked him to do, he did it beyond it. Whatever coach expected, coach, all right, my expectation is for you to do this. Michael would do that. He would give him more. Right. You know, so it was very clear that he responded to coach. You know what I'm saying? Whatever he responded to Coach Knight's coaching style, and he responded to Coach Knight's personality, whatever you want to describe it, but it was positive, and it was, and what it did also was impact the other players. Well, if Michael did it, well, yeah.
Else had to do it. Right.
Yeah, and but Charles Barkley was supposed to be on the team, but Charles just made up in his mind that he wanted the money. He just stopped playing the last day or two, because that was kind of cool getting, but
absolutely.
They were young men back then. They were, they see me and hey, but Charles Barkley, he was at that time, Charles was the best player on earth.
Oh wow.
Michael was coming, but Charles was he was an optical illusion. Because you look at him and say, that fat guy right there with that big head fat guy right there, run and jump like that. Oh man! Oh snap! I mean, like I said, it was an optical illusion. You look at him like, nah. But when he got on that floor,
somebody else.
He was something else. He was something else.
Unbelievable, man. Great stories, man. That's like one thing last thing I asked you about Coach Knight. Was there any point, did you guys almost have any type of falling out, like where you was like, man, I'm out of here, you tripping? Did that ever happen at any time as a player or as a coach?
No, as a coach, and I always wanted to coach. I wanted to be a head coach. That was the purpose of me being an assistant. I knew one day that was something that I wanted to do, and when I decided that I wanted to do that, Miami of Ohio gave me that opportunity, and I'd been there, in any relationship, I had been there. Like I said, I'd been around.
That's why I asked that, because you've been there 12, 14. Well, counting your playing days, you was like 16 years almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I wanted the opportunity, to be a head coach, and decided to do that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And
but I had the opportunity to see Coach this year, right before Hoosier hysteria. You asked me a question. You said something about Mike Woodson. Mike Woodson. The Indiana program is in great hands with Mike Woodson, because the people who know Mike Woodson, they know him for this reason right here. He is a very special human being. Mike gave me the opportunity when he was the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks to come down to Atlanta. Those 3 years he was there, and to be a part of his training camp, just to observe. And to be in those meetings as he was preparing those teams, and that's when I saw his uniqueness as a teacher. But more than that, Mike represents what I call the 3 C's. You know what I mean? His character, his conversation, and his conduct. You combine that with him as a human being, Indiana's going to do great things. Yeah, it's going to take a minute. The transition from the pro game to the college game. But once those players continue to buy in and to understand the uniqueness of having someone who has that kind of experience, someone who is that kind of a human being, and I mean, it's for real. I mean, that's for real. Right. And I would tell Mike way back, I said, Mike, you're going to be, Indiana, man, you're going to be the head coach of Indiana.
Really?
Because I just felt deep down from an instinctive level, because that's how I had to do it with Indiana. I mean, with Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, I remember sometimes, or one time we went into a player's house in Chicago, and while we're making our pitch, they were shooting outside. I mean, and that was crazy. But back to Mike, you know, and you're right. People want you to win every game, but that's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. And the last time that happened, matter of fact, Indiana did it.
Exactly.
So
right.
if it happens again, chances are Indiana's going to be the one to do it again.
Right. Exactly.
I think that as Mike continued to build on this foundational year, this transitional year, as he continued to build on that, we're going to get back to where we need to be, which is one of the premier programs, you know, in the United States. You know,
you keep up with him as much as you can, man. What are your thoughts so far about this current Indiana basketball team?
Well, I think that this team has the potential to go far, especially because of that big man in the middle. I mean, Trey Jackson, he's for real. He's for real. And the other big kid, Brace.
Yeah, Race.
Race. I don't know why I want to call him Brace. Race.
Yeah, this is Trace, Race. They all
they really complement each other well as far as the inside game, but I think the perimeter needs to become more consistent, and I think in time they will. I think that's the one question mark as to how far they could go or how successful they could be this year. But I think it'd be no doubt in my mind that when at the end of the season, that Trace is going to be considered one of the top guys for the draft, if that's what he decides to do. But I think that they have the pieces, they have the making of being a very, very successful team this year. But it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. It's going to take time for all the pieces, I think, to come together and for the program to really gel and be what it can be, and the team be what it can be. But I'm impressed with what I see. There are some guys that are coming into their own now. The one young man that's shooting the ball, what is it?
Parker Stewart,
and the other kid.
You got Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart. You have I'm drawing a blank of Xavier Johnson, the point guard. You got Race Thompson, Tamar Bates coming off the bench. You talked a little bit earlier about playing Jordan Geronimo a little bit more.
Yeah, Geronimo. Yeah, every time I see him play, he does good things. I see him get a big rebound or hit a big shot.
Yes.
I don't know, what else, but I see him, make positive contributions. And and the Mo battle tested. I think the Iowa game was a great game.
Yeah,
got off to a great start in the first half, and I think there's going to be some carryover.
Yeah,
Going to be some carryover, and eventually they'll get to the point where they're going to get that first road win, and once they get that first road victory in the Big Ten, I think the light will go off, and that'll really help that team get to the next level.
You get that monkey off their back, man. And finally, man, because I don't want to take all your whole day up. Like we said, I'm enjoying it, man. I know my producer probably sleep back there because we having a great time. But what are you doing? What is Joby Wright up to these days? You had a real really successful coaching career right after you left Coach Knight. I looked at your record. I believe it was like 110 and 93, which is really good. But you got out and then you decided not to go back into coaching. I was upset because I'm reading. I'm like, he was done in 97. Man, you could have came back and helped us out. We needed your help back in 90 and bring some of that nostalgia back. But you decided not to. What went into that decision, and what direction did your career take after you got done coaching?
Well, and that goes back to what I said earlier. For the last decade, I've been involved with coaching on the international front. I've done extensive work in Africa. I was a part of the original NBA Africa team to go
Wow.
to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And the first program was the Royal Bafokeng Basketball Development Program, which I was in charge of. And I was tasked with coming up with creating something out of nothing, which was basketball becoming a sport.
Right.
And the Royal Bafokeng. The Royal Bafokeng is the largest platinum deposit on earth. Is Royal Bafokeng.
Okay.
And I've continued to do more recently. I'm still doing virtual trainings for coaches internationally. You know, and then I had an opportunity after I stepped away in '97. There was a league that came on called the International Basketball League. It was comprised of 12 teams. And this was this was right before the NBA decided that they were going to have the CBA and G League, you know. And the owners of the International Basketball League, they were trying to develop a relationship with the NBA. So I ended up being the head coach and director of basketball operations for the Cincinnati Stuff.
Okay.
And it was 12 teams, and out of 12 teams, 11 of the coaches had previous NBA coaches. I was the only coach that wasn't an NBA head coach or NBA assistant coach.
Right.
Our team was picked to come in last. Well, we won our first 20 games straight, and we came out blazing. And you know, and the league ended up folding. And from that, I went to the Globetrotters and became the head coach of their series team. And then also I became director of technical development, which was when in the Globetrotters shows, they have points of time, intervals of time where they play serious ball. And so I had to prepare the team for that. Plus, I was over a show team, which was that was off the charts. You know, I never really came close to getting the type of situation that I was looking for.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the college game.
Right.
It was tough. And then, to be honest with you, for a brother, I mean, it just, for a Black coach, it was just, once you get a shot, and I got a couple of shots, things are much different now.
Right. Yep.
I would have gotten the opportunity to go back. I would have, but I didn't get that opportunity, except I went, I had a couple of years at Georgia State on Hunter.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and we won the Sun Belt. Sun Belt, and but not having the opportunity to go back, it just didn't present itself. And but then I had to keep, as you say,
move on.
I had to move on, So I ended up going back to my sports programming, and so I've been able to bring several programs into reality that had a lot of impact on people, on a lot of young people. And so, what I'm doing now is trying to get all my thoughts together for this book, and then at the same time complete my PhD.
Hey, well, as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the guys that I've talked to on this podcast and the parallels. Man, I always believe that, any of us who went through Coach Knight's program or played for him or coached for him, and in your case, you've done both, there's two things that we're able to do with the snap of our fingers, and that's coach if we wanted to. A lot of guys choose not to. You're able to coach because you learn how to teach the game instead of coaching. Coaching to me is motivation. Teaching is teaching how, and not motivating you to do how. And then the other thing is sports programming. And that's what I'm doing here in Peoria, Illinois. as the director of athletics for Peoria Public Schools, I'm just creating more better and more modern sports programming, and people think it's difficult, and it's like, well, that's what I experienced in college. I experienced a high level sports program, from the operation from Coach Knight on down. It was a well-oiled machine, and we just learned how to put together trainings and things of that nature and teach other guys how to coach and how to be coaches, etiquette, how to handle situations, not overreact to things, give yourself time. It's just a bunch of things that you learn at playing basketball in Indiana, man, and listening to you talk. Those are things as you moved on in your career. It seems as if those are things that came extremely easy for you because you enjoy teaching the game and you enjoy making sure your programs are ran the right way.
Well said, AJ. The very first class that I was taught out of a segregation situation, the first white, was Jerry Yeagley.
Oh, yep, the soccer coach.
And I thought he was the coolest guy.
Yeah.
and I remember him asking us to come watch, because at the time, Indiana soccer was a club sport. It wasn't even a varsity sport.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And before that, I.M. Page Museum, that's right on the side of the Wilderpool, that was an empty field.
Right.
And I remember watching one of Coach Yeagley's first practices, and there were about 20 guys out there. I don't think any two guys had the same kind of shoes on, and to see him go from that to winning, 3, 4, 5 national championships. But then later on, to have the opportunity to get to know him.
Right.
Talk to him. Okay. Yeah. And then Dr. James Councilman, who won 33 Big Ten swimming championships in a row.
Wow.
Coach Mark Spitz, who coached Gary Hall, and Hobie Billingsley. They were the two greatest swimming coaches in the world.
Right.
They were at IU. And,
wow.
and to be able to sit and talk to Dr. Council, and we used to go back and forth. When I was working on my degree in sports programming, my master's, I got a master's in counseling. Doc Councilman and I we used to go back and forth about about swimming and Black swimmers.
Right, yeah.
One of the things I did was I was over a swim meet, or I was assistant.
Right.
Fraternities having a swim meet. And how frats are at IU. I mean, there were thousands of people. Yeah. So to have an opportunity to say, well, okay, at one time, I had a personal relationship with Jerry Yeagley, I had a personal relationship with Jim Councilman, had a personal relationship with Sam Bell, one of the greatest track coaches ever coached in the Big Ten. So we had all these great coaches. We had all these great teachers.
Right.
And they all were kind of saying the same thing.
Exactly.
Not just being a great athlete, but they had a holistic view of coaching,
absolutely,
of developing the total athlete, the total being, not just the athlete, but the total being, But they had different ways, obviously, different personalities, different ways of getting there, but they all had the same end point, which was to make you the best that you could be.
Exactly.
And to be able to say that I sat in the same room with those cats and be able to bounce things back and forth, and some of the conversations we had, man, that's what I'm talking about. It was a treasure.
Yes,
and I hear people, when I hear guys here, there, and everybody say, man, you Indiana guys. It is. But that's my hope. And I'm going to tell you honestly, AJ, that's my prayer.
Right.
To get everybody back, everybody back on the same page from IU basketball, that we all, and when we say family, that's real talk.
That's real talk.
Because I've had guys tell me that they've met certain players that played for somebody else at IU, and we all played at Indiana.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Played at Indiana. Indiana's a special place, man. Assembly Hall, that nothing could ever take that away. Right. Assembly Hall is one of the top arenas in the world. As far as college basketball goes, it's one of the top of the United States.
Yeah.
You know? So anybody that played up in there, you played at someplace special.
Special.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Man, I want to thank you, man. We can go all day, man. I know you got things to get to. I'm going to get to it, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing what you could share on the podcast. We definitely will connect so we can have that real talk conversation and work to get our guys all back together, which is ironically why I started the podcast. I wanted to connect all eras of Indiana basketball that are still here breathing and able to share those memories together in one place so we can really begin to build the family. I think Coach Knight coming back was the first step. And I think, we have to, do the second step, which is making sure we bring it all back together. Knight guys, Mike Davis guys, Kelvin Sampson guys, Tom Crean guys, and Archie Miller guys. So, and be one big family, man. I thank you for taking your time and sharing that message, man. Write that book, because that's going to be one of the most awesome books ever written, because not many people share that perspective. They're either Coach Knight's buddy, or they played for Coach Knight, or they did some business, but you were his friend. He was a mentor to you. He was your coach, and he was a friend afterwards. So, man, you have a unique perspective, man. And I encourage you to get that done as soon as possible and get that out so we can really thumb through that and learn a lot more about Indiana basketball. But
I just want to commend you for your efforts and your time for what you're doing, because it's needed. And I've had a chance to look at several of the podcasts. You do a great job. You got people who are looking forward to talking with you. And
absolutely.
I think you are a great representative of Indiana basketball, and I want you to continue being successful and impacting young folk and pursuing your dreams.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, man. I know we can go all day, but I'm gonna wake my man up, get him to stop the podcast. I guarantee you we're gonna connect. Whether I come to Georgia or where are you located, South Carolina?
South Carolina, but I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth and I'm here and there. Once I get this wheel fixed, once I get right, I'll be around. We'll see each other.
Definitely. You come to Indy or you come to Bloomington, man, and visit your people. I want to be there to meet you, talk to you, sit down and politic with you. So we'll make it happen.
It was a pleasure, AJ.
Pleasure mine, man. Appreciate you. That'll do it for Joby Wright, the great recruiter, the great player, IU basketball history. Thank you, my man.